Hello everyone, glad you found this video. Welcome to Planet Linux. Today, per viewer request, we're taking a look at \Linux Olaf. Now, I've tried \Linux before, and back when it was in really early development, and I had some issues with it at the time. Mainly being that a lot of applications, including the web browser, would not load at all. And I had to go through and install a bunch of applications to actually get them to work, and it wasn't a smooth experience. So I really stopped paying too much close attention to the \Linux project. However, a viewer reminded me that the developer has released a new version, that being \Linux Olaf, and I decided I'd give it a try, do a review of it here. It is a fantastic experience, and if you're someone who has looked at \Linux before and have had issues with it, I highly recommend taking a second look at it now. It is much more polished and a very smooth user experience that's quite customized compared to other Linux distributions, and we'll take a look at exactly how here in a couple moments. Before we get started, however, I do want to show you a quick note in regards to installation. \, uses the installer from KDE Neon, which is perfectly fine. It's a great installer. However, it doesn't ask you for any user information when you install the system. Instead, it creates a default username and password that you can change later. The default username when you install is administrator, with the password being root. And so the first time you log into the system after you install it, you will have to enter that password for the administrator account. You can then go in and change the username and password once you've logged in to whatever you would like. So now that that's out of the way, we will take a look at the features page. What's new in \Linux Olaf? Well, first off, there is a new desktop experience, which we'll take a look at, as this is based on KDE. It's running the K desktop environment, but it's a very customized version, using something that's called the \shell. It's a customized shell experience that runs on KDE that really gives a different and more functional look to the Linux distribution. One such thing is the application-specific menu bar, which you can see running as an example here for Google Chrome. This is something I really like. If you're a Mac user, you're probably quite used to it, and really anyone can certainly find it easy to manage. It's just something I personally really like having. It's very universal, very clean, stays out of the way. There's not an extra toolbar on an application window for your menu bar. There's of course an integrated desktop search. This is a KDE function, not a specifically \Linux one, but still very powerful search, which we'll take a look at. As you can see, it talks about the dock, their customized app launcher, as well as the app menu that they use, and security. The ability to run Windows software on here via Wine. It comes with the WPS Office Suite, which I personally prefer over LibreOffice, which is what's found on most distributions. There is the KDE Media Center, which is definitely a different choice for media playback than you typically find, but it's honestly a pretty good one. It's a very polished looking interface, though it does tend to use a bit more computer resources, so you'll definitely want a higher-end computer to run this. And in fact, we'll take a look at the RAM and CPU usage here in a moment. They showcase a couple apps that are included in the distribution, including a Maps application and the calendar. Talk about the volume plugin, which is very nice indeed. So let's take a look at some of these things in action. First off, we'll start with the dock at the bottom of the screen here. This is something you don't normally find in KDE. This is part of the customized \shell. And I believe this is the Latte dock, which is different than you'd typically find, as the most common dock applications are Plank or Docky, maybe ChiroDock if you want something extremely customizable. So Latte is not the most common one, however it serves its purpose and works very well. It integrates very well with the look and feel of the desktop environment. You can right-click just about any item on here to either remove it from the launcher or open the Latte dock settings. There's quite a bit in here that you can change. You can choose the location of the dock as well as its alignment on screen. You can adjust the auto hide and visibility of it. You can change the size of the applets, zoom and animation settings, change the backgrounds, a bunch of individual different tasks here. You can change colors and indicators for open applications. You can preview window thumbnails, among other things. And as well as tweaks, things like auto start. You can raise the dock on a desktop change, which means it'll pull it to the front of the screen. When you switch workspaces, a bunch of different tweaks and settings here. I have found, well then, I just quit the dock, that's nice. If you ever accidentally close out the dock, you can open it. It's called Latte, so there we go. So I found that the dock is very intuitive, it's very nice. If you have an open application, such as Simple Screen Recorder here, which I'm running, if you right-click on that, it gives you common options. It's window controls, such as minimize and maximize. You can start a new instance of the window, as if you click on the icon that's open, it will bring up that window on screen. So this allows you to start a new instance of that window. You can show it in the launcher when not running, which basically pins it. Of course, close the application and once again go into the Latte dock settings. There's also a little clock widget here which shows an analog clock with the time. You can also click it to pull up a little pop-up calendar. So that's very nice. The other part of this / shell is of course the customized panel at the top of the screen. As for the menu on the far left, this uses the simple menu in the KDE interface, the simple application menu, which I personally like over the typical menu that's used in KDE. You can pin applications here along the left if you desire, and you have options for shutdown, log off, restart, and of course all your applications are categorized neatly here with little pop-out menus. It's very simple. You have a search box here, which I'll briefly talk about the search functionality. As I mentioned, this is a KDE function, not specifically /. But within this menu, or when you're just on the desktop, you can start typing. It will allow you to search for applications, files, folders, and settings on the system. So if I just type printer, here it shows me the printer settings. And you can of course click that and go directly into the settings. It's honestly one of the best search tools that I've seen in any desktop environment. The GNOME 3 search in the overview has given it a run for its money as of late, being that it can also search for files, folders, settings, as well as applications. But I just find it in KDE to be so easy to access. If you're on your desktop, you can literally just start typing what you're searching for. Anywhere you are on the system, you can just open the menu and start typing. It's very fast, very easy to search. Anyways, continuing along this top panel, of course this blank space here is reserved for the universal menu bar, as your open applications show up on the dock. So the space is free for the universal menu bar. And then on the right is of course the notification area for all of your different icons. This first one here is for Simple Screen Recorder. But then we have our standard ones, Bluetooth, wireless, or networks, excuse me. These are both standard KDE utilities, along with clipboard contents, which I really like. You can view what you've recently copied and pasted. We have the volume control, and this is like the regular KDE volume control, but I believe it has been customized a bit here as it is very detailed. It works very well. On the first Devices tab here, you can see all of your playback devices. I have a pair of headphones plugged into my system, as well as the built-in speaker. And you can independently adjust their volume levels in here. You then have capture devices, such as microphones, and you can independently adjust those levels directly in here. Under Applications, you can view, or you can adjust the volume levels for specific applications. For example, Simple Screen Recorder is capturing audio right now. If you have, say, a YouTube video playing in your web browser, that will also show up in here, and you can adjust its volume. So it's a very powerful volume audio manager, something that goes far beyond what you typically see in most other Linux distributions. We of course have our little drop-down menu here that lets you view all of your other status menus as well as notifications. Many of these icons will show up in the main display if they're necessary. For example, if you're on a laptop, the battery and brightness indicator will be up here in the bar. When updates are available, the updates indicator will show up on the bar. Of course, to the right we have our clock, which when you click it pulls up a calendar. It also, and I don't believe this is a normal KDE feature, this is, I believe, specific to BackSlash, pulls up a large printout of the current day and date, as well as will show any upcoming events on your calendar. I believe most KDE distributions just show the pop-out calendar, so this is definitely very nice. And also the final thing, specific to the BackSlash shell up on this panel, is the user menu. Clicking this lets you see the current user that's logged in, lets you also switch to a new session or a new user. You can lock the screen, and you can click Leave, which jumps you to suspend, reboot, shutdown, and log out. These are all options that can and normally are accessed through the application menu, as you can see here. However, it is nice to be able to first off directly see the user that's logged in, as well as just quickly switch between users and have quick access to it over on the side panel. Next we'll take a look at some of the apps, as that's the other main thing that makes BackSlash Linux Olaf so interesting over a typical KDE distribution. What the developer has really done is, instead of including strictly KDE-based applications, as many other distributions do that run KDE, they've instead put their focus on putting the best applications for each task, whether it's KDE-based or GTK-based for GNOME. There's some crossover with that. For example, we have down here the file browser, which is Dolphin, and you'll see if we open it here that this is in fact Dolphin, slightly customized version of Dolphin, but very nice, which is of course standard in KDE. We also have this app launcher, which is a full screen app launcher, if you like that sort of thing, along with the search box up here. This, unlike the regular KRunner search, does only search for applications, so you can't search for programs, or excuse me, you can't search for files or settings in this search box, but it is sort of like a launchpad sort of launcher, such as you'd find in Mac OS X. You'll notice by default this includes the Chromium web browser. I'm personally a fan of Firefox myself. Chromium's not bad. I've had issues with its theming though. As you can see, by default, the tab toolbar in Chrome does not adapt to the actual color theming of the rest of the system. And this is something that can be changed with some tweaking, but it's nice when things just work and look right out of the box. And most things on here do. Chromium generally does not, and that's also one of the reasons I prefer Firefox. It does seem like a strange choice to include Chromium when this so blatantly doesn't match, when one of the big focuses with this distribution was to create a whole shell and experience that looks very polished and is themed very consistently. You'll see what I mean more specifically with that in a moment. So I would prefer Firefox, and it generally themes better with the rest of the system, but Chromium's still a very capable browser, and you can fix this theming issue with some tweaking. Here's where things get really interesting. While most KDE distributions would include KDE-specific applications for uh, email, for calendars, maps, for example, the focus here was simply providing the best apps for the job, whether they're specific for KDE or not. And the first example is the Maps application. This is the Maps app from GNOME. Uh, this is typically not found on a KDE distribution, but it does run very well, and it looks very good. And I think that's something that goes along with the theming, the fact that you'll notice the toolbars for the GTK-based applications look very consistent with those for Qt applications, for KDE. And my dock is not coming up at the bottom of the screen right now. Okay, we will move this out of the way so the dock comes up. For example, if I open Dolphin or another Qt-based application, you'll see that its toolbars, the theming it uses for the title bars, they're the same colors. The window buttons up here match very well, and that's something you don't normally find with GTK applications running in KDE. You normally have to adjust those themes separately, and they don't always match the best. But the fact that they've gotten that to work and look very good means that it does look really nice having GNOME and other GTK-based applications running in the distribution. And I think that's something that other distribution developers should really take into account, instead of always focusing so solely on this is running KDE, so I need KDE apps, or this is running GNOME, so I need GNOME-based apps. Focusing on just putting in the best applications for the job and working to make them look good in that desktop environment. Another one here is the calendar app. This is a calendar from GNOME, not something you would normally see in KDE. I personally think this is a very capable calendar app, and of course, being that it is GTK3, it doesn't work with the universal menu bar because it has no menu bar. This, along with a lot of other modern GTK3 apps, has their sort of menu bar up in the title bar of the application here with your settings. And so that is something that, while it is slightly inconsistent, it's nothing you can really do anything about. It's just how the GTK apps are developed. And personally, I don't really mind having the buttons up here in the title bar itself. It saves screen space. Continuing with apps, we do have the Kodi Media Center. I hope this will load right with Simple Screen Recorder. Hopefully it shows up. This is definitely an interesting choice as far as media goes, but it really is a powerful tool. It allows you to manage music, videos, pictures, all sorts of media. It even has a lot of add-ons and plugins for internet radio. I believe there are ways to get video streaming services, so like Netflix or Hulu, working in this. I could be mistaken, but it's really a very powerful media center. It's something you might find on a smart TV or something of the sort. A lot of distros don't include this. It is a bit resource intensive at times. As you can see, the whole interface is very different, very customized. But it is a pretty powerful tool. Of course, then, we get into more standard media tools. For the music player, it uses Musique, and this is not a common one, and I actually question the choice for putting it in a little bit. This doesn't feel like it was really a push for using something GNOME-like, because a lot of GNOME distros have Rhythmbox or Banshee included. So I am questioning why they put this in. It's not a bad application. It works very well. It's just definitely an interesting choice. We of course have good old VLC media player then, which can play just about any media format under the sun. Videos, audio, anything of the sort. So as you can see, VLC here, along with most other applications that don't use the new GTK3 layouts, does have the universal menu bar. This works very well, and it saves screen space not having a menu bar within the application. So as you can see, they've really mixed and matched applications a bit here. It's not strictly KDE based apps. They have some from GNOME, they have some other interesting choices, but I think the real focus was simply giving the best applications they can to get things done, not worrying about whether it's GTK or Qt based, and they've made the theming very consistent across all of the application types. I have to admire this wallpaper actually. I really like it, and if we go into desktop, we'll have a look at some of these wallpapers. It's all a very similar artwork style, and here's an interesting one. I think these all just look really amazing. They all have a very distinct look to them. Many of them are very bright and colorful. I believe this was the one that was back in the initial version of BackSlash when I had first tried it. So, finally, I would like to, as I mentioned before, check the RAM on this system, as KDE tends to be relatively memory intensive on its own. I am curious to see how it runs with this customized BackSlash shell running. I'm not sure if the system has htop or not. It does not. We could get it. I won't right now. Htop is a program that's available on a lot of distros by default. You can get it on just about anything though, and it's really a system monitor and task manager combined. You can manage your processes and start and stop processes, see how much memory they're using and such. You can see the amount of RAM and CPU used for the entire system. It's really a fantastic tool. I love using it. But for the time being, we will check our RAM here. And let's see. Should be able to make this larger. There we go. Currently, we're using 1.4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, this was not after a clean restart. This system has been running for at least the duration of this video. So I've had a couple applications open, and of course the screen recording software is running, so that's definitely higher. I believe when I first booted this up and checked, it was booting up with using about a gig of RAM. So, I mean, if it's using a gig of RAM out of the box, that means that's pretty much always going to use that much, that any applications and such you run are going to be on top of that. So you really do need a computer that has decent hardware. This should be able to run fine on any computer that's made within the last few years, 3 or 4 years, especially if it has at least mid-range hardware. You won't get this running on low-end systems or any that are older than really 3 or 4 years probably. But most modern hardware should support it fine as long as you have probably at least 4 gigs of RAM, which most laptops, even some smaller netbooks now, come with at least 4 gigs of RAM. So with decent hardware, this should run just fine. And I have a habit of closing things when I finish talking about something. I'm not really thinking about the next thing I need, because I need that terminal again. I was going to check the kernel version. As you can see, this is running kernel 4.4, which is not the latest by any means, but it is a very stable kernel. It should work with just about any modern hardware that you need it to, any peripherals, printers, keyboards, mice, any external drives you plug in. 4.4, though it's not the latest, has been good with hardware support in my experiences, and most things that have this kernel version tends to run well on my systems. I've never really had an issue with the 4.4 kernel. Now I'm done with the terminal. So in conclusion, \Linux Olaf is a fantastic update to what \Linux started as. As I mentioned, if you've used \, before, whether you loved it or hated it, had issues with it, or it worked perfectly, I would definitely give this a try, as I did have issues with \, in the beginning, but this version, Olaf, it works great. I've yet to experience really any issues with it whatsoever. The customized KDE interface with the \, shell really does make this a very intuitive experience. From the clean, easy-to-use menus to having the dock down here, the beautiful theming that's very consistent across the entire system and just about all apps, the functionality in some of the tools, the volume, the menus, the universal menu bar. Very great. One thing I forgot to mention as far as theming, these are, I believe, Mac OS inspired icons, and everything I've been showing you has been the default theming, what the system looks like when you first start it up without any customization. And so I would definitely give this a try if you're looking for a KDE based distribution with a little bit of flair to it. This is something that it really improves upon the K desktop environment. And even if you're someone that hasn't been a huge fan of KDE before, this is one that I would try, even if you don't really like KDE, because while this is KDE at its core, there are a lot of things that really improve upon it, including the app selection and the fact that you're not simply given KDE applications out of the box. You're given what the developer believes is the best application for that job, whether it's KDE or GTK, GNOME based. And as I mentioned, it does come with the WPS Office suite, which is an interesting choice, but I personally do like it. It kind of has a look similar to that of kind of like Microsoft Office, and it doesn't want to run right now for whatever reason. Okay. Oh, maybe we're good. Okay. And so I mean, there, as I mentioned, interesting app selection, but I think it's definitely a good one, and the entire distribution itself really sets itself apart from any other distribution that runs KDE. I think you should definitely give this a try if you're looking for a new distro, you're looking for a clean yet intuitive distribution, whether you love the features of KDE or you never were real keen on them, but this is certainly different from typical KDE. So that concludes my review of \Linux Olaf. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. If there's anything you'd like to say, go ahead and post in the comments. If you have any requests as to future videos, whether it be distro reviews or ideas for applications that I should look at and give a sort of review or introduction to, please let me know. At some point here, I'll be uploading a video regarding the applications and tools that I use often on just about any instance of Linux that I'm running, things I find very useful. So, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I greatly appreciate it. And enjoy until I see you next time.